cannot stand how the news has been dogging Gen Z and calling them lazy for not wanting to work a 9 to 5 for the rest of their lives. Let me put it in perspective for everybody who's a little confused here, okay? I work 5 days out of the week, 40 hours a week, okay? I do not make enough to live on my own. I would not make enough to pay rent, water, electric, and eat. All by myself. I would not be capable of doing that. 20 years ago when you were getting started...
Man, Gen Z just don't want to work anymore, do they? That could not be farther from the truth. Gen Z is actually one of the smartest and most intuitive generations that we have. They realize that the 40-hour work week is not getting them the ability to afford basic necessities. What is the motivation to work 40 hours a week or 60 hours a week if you can't even afford rent? Like, nobody wants to just continue to work and work and work and not be able to pay their bills. They're looking for innovative ways to start businesses and make money online because they're trying to hack the system. The system which is not serving them, by the way. They're not a lazy generation. They're just tired. Eventually, there needs to be a change, or there's going to be a big problem as far as filling jobs because Gen Z just doesn't want to do it. And the ones that do want to work hard can't get a break with layoffs. Make it make sense.
They have been called lazy, entitled, and unrealistic. But is that really the truth? The Gen Zs are walking away from the traditional 9 to 5, and it has got a lot of people talking about it. But before you roll your eyes, let's ask the real question. Why? Are the Gen Zs really allergic to work? Or are they just waking up to a system that doesn't work anymore? Let's break it down. For decades, the 9 to 5 job was sold as the American dream. Go to school, get good grades, land a stable job, climb the ladder, and retire at 65. But here's the thing, that system doesn't work anymore. The Gen Zs grew up watching their parents burn out. They saw millennials crushed by student debt, working 2 jobs just to survive. So when the Gen Zs enter the workforce, they ask themselves, why would I do the same thing for less? Wages haven't kept up with inflation. House prices have exploded. Job security is no longer guaranteed. Layoffs, gig work, and contract roles have replaced stable employment. The Gen Z knows that a job can disappear overnight. Loyalty means little in today's economy. The concept of retiring at 65 is fading. Pensions are rare. Social security may not be enough. The Gen Z knows that they'll be working longer with fewer safety nets. The Gen Zs are not lazy, they are disillusioned, and maybe, just maybe, they're onto something. Let's take a look at this video.
Can somebody explain to me in crayon eating terms why I make over 3 times the federal minimum wage and I cannot afford to live?
I know he kind of answered the question himself in his own video, but I want to highlight one thing he briefly mentioned and talk about it, which is that the American dream is dead. Yes, the traditional American dream, which is like doing better than your parents and being able to provide a lot for your family, is dead, or at least it's changed. Because there are many of us that are well aware that we will never be able to make as much money as our parents did. And I think my mother, who is a boomer and benefited directly from the system in place, said it best when she once said, roughly, that the American dream has changed. It's become very apparent to everyone that in this economy, Gen Z, millennials, and some Gen Xers, many of us will not be able to do better than our parents. We won't even be able to do as well as our parents. And now the American dream has become just being able to get by, being able to maybe afford a house at some point, maybe have a kid or two if we're lucky enough to make that much money.
Here is what's different. Gen Zs put their mental health first. And guess what? That's not a bad thing. They saw what burnout did to the generations before them. 60 hours a week, no boundaries, hustle culture disguised as ambition. And they are saying, no thanks. This generation is asking, why should work define my life? And maybe that's not lazy. Maybe that's wise. Unlike previous generation who internalized suffering, Gen Z openly asks, why should I sacrifice my mental health for a paycheck? And here is the truth. The 9 to 5 grid can be brutal. Long commutes, micromanagers, no flexibility, unrealistic expectation, all under the marks of corporate culture. For Gen Zs, mental health isn't just a side concern. It's central. That's why they prioritize flexible schedules, therapy access, self-employment, side hustle, and rest. Let's watch this video.
This Gen Z worker shares her struggle with her first 9 to 5 job with in-office schedule.
But this is my first job, like my first 9 to 5 job after college, and I'm in person, and I'm commuting in the city, and it takes me fucking forever to get there. There's no way I'm gonna be able to afford living in the city right now, so that's off the table. Like, fucking duh! If I was able to walk to work, and it'd be fine, but I'm not. So it literally takes me, like, I leave here, like, I get on the train at 7:30, and I don't get home till, like, 6:15 earliest, and then, like, I don't have time to do anything. I want to shower, eat my dinner, and go to sleep. I don't have time or energy to cook my dinner either. Like, I don't have energy to work out. Like, that's out the window. Like,
Some people on TikTok roasted this girl, saying that this is real life, just being over dramatic and all that. But many also supported her, saying her feelings are valid and that they feel the same way. Personally, as someone who used to commute 2 hours to work and 2 hours back to home for 5 days a week, I can totally relate to this girl. I remember that the only time I got to run errands or get personal stuff done was on the weekends only. Basically, I barely had a life. One of the top comments that really got to me is this one. My father worked all his life, couldn't wait to retire at 62. He died 9 months later. Her feelings are valid.
Working a real corporate job makes it almost impossible to pursue any other passions, and I'm starting to hate it so much. This is true for a standard 9 to 5, but I'm a first-year analyst at a pretty big company. I don't get out of the office until 7-ish, and that's on a good day. Chasing your dreams takes hard work and consistency, but it also takes time. So when you only have an hour or two a day to exercise your free will, it becomes exponentially more difficult. Sometimes I wonder why I'm in the office when I am so certain that this is not at all where I see myself in this life. You only get one life, and yet Monday comes around and I'm back at the cubicle, ready to light another 10 hours of my life on fire.
Instead of a 9 to 5, Gen Zs are building their own paths, freelancing, content creation, online businesses, and gig work. And yes, even reselling sneakers and managing OnlyFans accounts. It sounds unconventional, but it's working. Some are earning more doing what they love in 4 hours a day than others do in 40. It's not just about the money, it's about the freedom, flexibility, control over time. It's not rebellion, it's evolution.
Due to the instability of a full-time job and all the costs that Gen Z has to deal with when it comes to the rising costs of healthcare, housing, food, utilities, basically everything, they have decided to go the freelance route. In fact, over 70% want to be a freelancer or are already freelancing. And they're choosing this over a full-time job because they want more control. They want to be able to have control over how much money they make, the amount of hours, and have that flexibility that a lot of these companies don't offer. And when you freelance, in most cases, you get to work remote full-time. And most companies today do not allow that to happen.
Here is the twist. A lot of workplaces aren't just ready for the Gen Zs. They want open communication, feedback, respect. But too many jobs still run on outdated hierarchies and rigid rules. Gen Z isn't afraid to quit. They are not scared to say, this isn't working for me. And maybe that's not entitlement. Maybe it's boundaries. And lastly, let's be real. Gen Z grew up online. They learned to code, design, edit, and build brands all from their phones. They don't need a cubicle to make money. They have seen what's possible and they are asking, why should I do it the hard way? From platforms like Upwork and Fiverr to affiliate marketing, Gen Z has more options than any generations before. So is Gen Z rejecting the 9 to 5? Yes, but not because they are lazy. They are rejecting burnout. They are rejecting exploitation. They are rejecting a system that stopped working long time ago. And in its place, they are building something new, something more human. Maybe the question isn't why doesn't Gen Z want to work a 9 to 5? Maybe it's why do the rest of us still think that's the only way? So what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. And thanks for watching. Bye.